Welcome back, folks, to another edition of our Seriously Western podcast. It's just me today, just Adam Deacon. Mr. Bailey Egret is out with what I'm going to call the bird flu because it is Super Bowl Sunday when this is recording. And Bailey is apparently out with food poisoning. Could be the bird flu because he's an Eagles fan, and hopefully that brings them good luck in beating the Chiefs because I don't know about anyone else. I'm sick of watching the Chiefs. Honestly, I'm not super excited about the Super Bowl in the first place. Will I go watch it? Probably. But just recorded some incredible shows. Wanted to talk a little bit about them with you today. Seriously Western Show, talking all Western stuff, brought to you by our folks over at Amped Outdoors, the choice for lithium batteries in the Serious Angler arsenal. Boom. Okay. Two incredible winners today. We are talking Shasta. That is the Lake Shasta with absolutely giant spotted bass, one of which we talk about today. But we had the winner, Mr. Joe Uribe of Arizona, but West Coast absolute hammer goes up, wins the one bass event with 55 pounds. Really neat story here. No good practice, just a great situation for him, and incredible to hear how he got it done on a rainy, nasty Shasta in February. Then we have Mr. Alex Niapas. Alex won the BAM Pro Am event a couple of weeks ago on Shasta, and then backs it up at the one bass with a third place finish. Two incredible finishes. He's a big swim bait guy. Get into some details there. In addition to talking about his absolute Goliath 9 pound, 14 ounce spot that was weighed on one bass. So, super excited to get into this show. I will say there is a little bit of an audio issue with Alex's stuff. And I think we also were having issues visually a little bit, but it's a great show, worth listening in for sure. And tune in to see everything else we have going. Super excited about this segment, guys. I think this Seriously Western stuff is super passionate. I'm all in about it, and we'll certainly have Bailey on the next one. But tune in. All right, folks. And now we are joined by the one and only Mr. Joe Uribe Jr., who is known for his dominance on the West Coast, especially in the state of Arizona. But now we're talking Northern California, not sunny Arizona, different place where you have certainly spent some time. But Joe, man, first of all, mega congratulations, and glad you made it back home safely.
Yeah, thank you so much, Adam, for the opportunity. And yeah, it was a long drive. It was 14 hours yesterday coming back, but obviously, it makes it a little bit easier on the drive when you come home with a trophy like this. And man, I'm still in awe of what happened because it's oh so real. I've been very blessed over my tournament careers, but this kind of a win at Shasta, I mean, it's pretty special. I mean, man, it's just it's still trying to settle in because I didn't catch him in practice. I mean, I wish I could say I was dialed, man. I had him figured out, but I'd be kidding everybody. So, when and it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and this event was a true testament of that. So I'm very grateful. Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. First of all, I got a comment too. It looks like we've got some Valentine's Day decor. What's
We do.
going on with all the Valentine's Day stuff, man? We're
That's
getting
that's
close here.
Amy, man. She already decorated the house way before the even event. So she's like, I'm setting up right here, but you're not moving my Valentine's stuff. I'm like, okay, no problem, love. It's all you. So yeah,
There
no,
you
I was excited too. Amy actually flew out there for the final day and was there for our win, and that was super special. So yeah, I'm very grateful.
Oh, man. Fantastic. I love to hear that. Obviously, One Bass has puts on great events, always starts the year, seems like here lately at Shasta, that early season event. How long have you been traveling up there? I mean, you've spent a lot of time on the West Coast. Quite frankly, where I've seen your dominance in the past is Arizona and other bodies of water, but certainly
Right,
when I think of Joe, I think of, big baits on Havasu, right? Like something like that comes to mind. And I'm a guy from Idaho,
right.
originally from Colorado, but that is what I think of when I think of Joe Uribe Jr. Give us a little breakdown on just how far away that is. I think maybe for folks who don't understand also just the difference in the West Coast of like where everything is.
Right. Well, just to let everybody know, I mean, I'm not an Arizona native. I'm actually was born and raised in Long Beach, California. So growing up in SoCal is where my roots started. And, my dad and my parents introducing me to fishing at a young age. Fishing and hunting was in our family, outdoors. We loved it. So I was very grateful for that, for them to introduce me to that at such a young age. But, growing up at some of the best fisheries in the world, Lake Castaic, Lake Casitas, Lake Cachuma, that's where I cut my teeth as a young kid fishing. And my dad and I just, we gravitated early on in our career to swim baits, and so it's helped me in my professional career to a point, especially coming out here to Arizona lakes. It was, I frequent Havasu as a kid. We would travel there for club tournaments, but that lake has completely changed to what it was back when I started fishing Lake Havasu. I think it was 1993 is when I started fishing Havasu. But yeah, but in regards to Shasta and a lot of these Western lakes, I mean, guys, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. So I started my pro career, I'd say pro am career in 2003 with Juan Bass. I cut my teeth with them, and so I'm very grateful for that organization. They're still very well established here out west, and in my opinion, give us a great platform to be able to compete at a high level and also at a shared weight level. So it really helps get the newbies into tournament fishing introduced, like me, when I'm back in 2003. I wasn't sure if this is what I wanted to do, and they helped me grow my passion further into the professional sport. And obviously, then along FLW came back in 2007 when they had the National Guard Series, and I was super excited to want to be a part of that. So a lot of great organizations have come and gone, and just so grateful for that. But I still love to compete, but obviously have toned it back quite a bit from when I started back in 2003. That's for sure. But still doing it out there. Still so blessed out there. And in regards to your original question, I mean, how do I drive 14 hours from Arizona to Redding, California, with the confidence, knowing that I have the ability to win? And a lot of it is just being real with yourself, and your confidence and your abilities and your style of fishing. I don't go there to compete against the locals because it's their playground. But guess what? We can all play. And I want to go there with my mindset of how I want to catch them and just be open minded to the conditions. And, last year we finished third. We actually had an opportunity to win this event last year. The game changer for me was on day three. I missed one key bite in 3 days, and most people are like, well, that's no big deal. It's one bite, but that's one bite that could have won it for me last year. But that's the way it goes. The difference this year is I fished super clean. I've never missed a fish. Everything was executed very well, and not only by myself, but also my co-anglers. Man, my hat's off to all 3 day co-anglers. We had a great time. They caught fish, we caught fish. We were a team out there. We stayed positive. We endured some pretty tough conditions. I mean, really tough. We had rain, we had wind, we had snow, and actually, this is the first time in my career that I weighed in early all 3 days. I'm
Wow.
usually running the clock to the wire. No, because I felt it. I truly felt it after day one. I'm like, things are going right. It just felt, I feel it. And day two, my co and we caught back to back. I caught a 4.5. He caught a 5.5. And I looked at him. I'm like, no way. This ain't happening. Is it really? He's like, dude, that just happened. I'm like, we're going in. He's like, I'm good with that. So we go in and weigh almost 19. And then day three was the challenge. That was the one mentally. I said, Joe, this one will make you and break you. I said, so be careful. Okay. Be open minded. Today's a new day. The conditions cleared up. There was no rain. We actually saw sunshine for the first time in 5 days. And I'm thinking, okay, I know how fast these spots move up. And they did. They moved up shallow. I used my Garmin Panoptix live scope, and I was able to follow and watch a lot of those fish follow the baits that I was throwing day one and day two, but not really commit. But I saw how further up the water column they were shallow. And I made the adjustment. I don't know why. Just voices in my head said, you know what, Joe, slow down, pick up the spinning rod. And we did. And we went to work. And that's how we caught him. We caught him on day three on something completely different than day one and two. And to be able to do that, leading an event, most people are like, how? Why? How? What made you do that? And it's like, a lot of that is the experience. Again, I the biggest thing in my career, early on in my career, was forcing it, really trying to put a lot of pressure on myself to want to win so bad that it kept getting further and further away from me. And it really wasn't until 2015 when I just said, you know what, I'm done trying. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I'd let my hair down and I just said, I'm just going fishing. And I won two that year. And after that, it was history. So, it's for me to share that with everybody because, a lot of people think he's got to be throwing special baits or it's got to be something. It's really not. I mean, I am gifted. There's no doubt. I've been given a talent that it's just amazing, to be able to go out there with little practice, no practice, and just go out there and make the adjustments during the event, not after. Let's not talk about what we could have done after. Let's make the adjustments during the event. In the moment is so much fun. That's really what gets my wheels going. It's just making the adjustments and while it's happening, and it's an awesome feeling, man. It is.
I love it, man, and I think that's a really, really big point, and for a lot of listeners, is the mindset shift that you had of not trying to force it. I mean, there's a lot of science behind this in everything, not just in bass fishing, in sports and different things, but, like, the not worrying so much about the outcome and really listening to that in the moment feeling, like, man, it's something I struggle with in tournaments, no doubt, and some of my best tournaments have always been when it's exactly like you're saying, that way, when it's a relaxed state of like, all right, I need to completely make adjustments, and boom, you end up catching a 6, and then you're like, "Okay, this is working, move on to that." And so I think that's a really, really good point, and because I feel like in anything, not just in fishing, we can bang our heads against the wall pretty hard, going into something like this is driving, 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 forcing, like you said, and it's not that way. Like, it's counterintuitive to some degree. Sometimes you need to lay off and really think about in the moment what's going on and having fun.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a lot of it too. I mean, it's just, it's keeping it fun, but also I love to compete and I'm very competitive, but again, just going out there and enjoying the moment, having a great time and just appreciating everything around you. I mean, going to Shasta, what a beautiful fishery. I mean, I'm coming from the desert where there's nothing but cactus and stuff out here, and we go up there and there's trees and bald eagles flying around and just taking it all in. I mean, it's truly a special place. Yes, the weather was harsh, but that's always expected when we go to Shasta. But we all made the best of it, and everybody was safe out there. Nobody got hurt, fortunately, and it was great. And I mean, the weights. It wasn't just like I caught them. A lot of
Mhm.
people caught them. It was a great event. I mean, my goal is to catch a big spot, and watching Alex Niapas catch that 914 spot. Are you kidding me? Like that's impressive. And I mean, so hopefully one day, knock on wood, I can catch a big spot. That big one I caught on day one was a largemouth, weighed 7.5. Very grateful to have it. Obviously, that's a game changer. But I mean, you got those bucket lists. I want to catch a giant spot and I want to catch a giant smallmouth. And so I've yet to really do that yet, but it hopefully in the future it'll come.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, I'm blessed now making the move from Colorado to Idaho for the giant smallmouth component.
Yeah,
There's some great big fish around, man, and just unique fisheries. So, yeah, that's like you said, my bucket list is a big spot. My biggest spot's, I don't know, 3.5, 4 pounds, something like
right.
that. I've never had those freaks that come out of like that one that you're saying out of
Yeah,
Shasta, which are just and that's the thing I feel like with Shasta is like those are unbelievable game changing fish because the amount of 2 pounders in there, right, are
right.
just tons of them. And
Yeah, and
so
they pull so hard. Spotted bass, I mean, they don't jump, but like smallmouth, they don't do a somersault in the air. They don't come up and shake your swim bait like a largemouth, but they dig, pull hard. Those things are relentless, and it's amazing. It's just how fun that is, and that's the only time I get to fish spotted bass is going to Shasta. So this
yeah,
Arizona boy gets excited driving 14 hours, to go try to pull on some of those things, and I mean, it's one thing catching them on a big rod, but like on day three when I had the spinning rod out, boy, let me tell you, that gets the blood pumping, man. I mean, I had the trolling motor on high, chasing some of those fish. I
wow,
caught one almost five on the final day on the spinning rod, and man, what a battle! I'm like, gosh, so
yeah,
it makes it that much more fun. So it was cool. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I've actually got some of the baits that I used. If
yeah, I
you
was gonna
want
say.
to that too.
Let's dig into to some of that. I guess first, let's start with you mentioned practice was tough and you
Hmm.
really didn't find anything.
No.
And I think there's a mental component, especially with Shasta this time of the year. Like you said, it is always dreary, rainy, snow. Like every time I see videos or photos from that event, it's just like, that doesn't look fun to fish in, man. Like that looks miserable out there. Um, but like, let's talk about your practice. I mean,
Yeah.
what didn't you find? What made you kind of start to get in that moment of thinking on the fly, it sounds like in the actual day events.
Right. So day one of my practice, which was actually Sunday, my sister Rachel and I went out there and practiced together. It was her only day of practice that she had. So we went up in the squaw arm. We fished the narrow section of Shasta, and we really struggled. We I didn't think we caught our first fish till 11 o'clock, and we caught some nice trout on the live scope. That was fun, but yeah, but no bass until about 11. We started kind of catching some fish, but nothing big. We caught maybe 9.5 pounds. So I had a stretch that her and I kind of found that I thought, well, hey, it's a limit spot. If I need, that'd be cool. And that was it. Day two, I decided in that harsh conditions to launch, drive up and trailer up to Lakehead, all the way up top of the upper end of the Sacramento Arm. And I put in up there where I thought the tournament was won last year, and I figured I'd go up there and kind of check it out. Saw a lot of anglers up there, fished up there from, I think I got in the water at 8. I got off the water at like 4 o'clock. I caught 3 bass. I caught 3 bass. And let me tell you something. There was a lot going through my mind during that day. And I was, again, granted, I was fishing for big bites and just wasn't happening. I actually pulled out the spinning rod and caught a 3 pounder. I'm like, wow, okay. So, and then I caught 2 more regular fish, and that was it. So, that night I'm just thinking, do I want to go out there one more day and get discouraged, or do I just want to settle in to where I fished last year? And even
Okay.
though I hadn't practiced there yet, so I decided not to go out because the weather was going to be even worse than it was the day before. So I figured
Wow.
I'd thaw out, dry out my clothes, and just work. So I did. I stayed home. I worked, got some rods rigged, just kind of relaxed. My mom and my sister were there, so got to hang out with them and just chill out. And so that was good. So the tournament started. I didn't know where I was going to start. Did not know. I didn't have a game plan other than I talked to we're sitting there waiting, and I turned to my co-angler Damon Modley, who I actually worked with back in the day at Anglers Marine, and I said,
Cool.
Damon, let me bounce something off you, man. I need a little bit of help on this. He's like, yeah, what's up? He goes, I got to stretch a bank that we can go to, and we catch a limit, or we can go settle in to where I caught him last year, and we go big and we go for it. He goes, Joe, let's just go for it, man. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for that. I needed that. I'm like, let's go, man. Let's go have some fun. He goes, yeah, let's go. And I go, Dame, we're going to go pre-fish today. He goes, sounds good. So we went, and we went to an area on a stretcher bank that I usually start on, and we went down the bank, and like 5 minutes into it, I catch one on an A-rig, a pound and 3/4. I'm like, hey, I caught one. Okay, cool. And then I catch another one, another pound and 3/4. I'm like, you know what? They're biting it. That's good. Okay. So I go to a little nub point. I tell Damon, I said, man, I usually catch a good one off there. And I fire my A-rig past the point, and I'm winding it, and I watch it come off the bottom and smoke it. And I'm like, I got her. And he's like, I saw it, and 2 3/4. I'm like, hey, this is happening. This is a good thing. And
Yeah.
we just kept chipping away in the troll motor, man. I never pulled up the troll motor. We just kept running little areas, and we caught a limit. We went back and fished the other direction of where we started, and I catch a 3, and I'm like, wow, that's a good spot. And then I pull up on this textbook point, right? Textbook, and I make the cast, and I'm thinking to myself, man, there should be one here. And I lean back into this thing, and Damon's like, dude, I knew there was going to be one right there. And this largemouth comes up and shakes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Damon, get the net. And this thing takes off. We're fighting it around. We get it in the net, and we look at each other. It's like, did that just happen right now? He thought it was a 9. I'm like, no, it's a big one. It ain't a 9. But I said, that's a good one right there. And we throw it in the well. And that really gave me the confidence, like, Joe, we're doing the right thing. And, we looked around, and it wasn't like we had the area to ourselves. There's a lot of other
Yeah.
competitors around, a lot of local anglers. I felt good about this area I was in, but nobody was doing what I was doing. Everybody had spinning rods. They were finesse fishing. I stayed the course, was fishing relatively a little bit shallower than most, and throwing an 88 A rig, which is what I have
Okay.
right here. And it's same setup I used last year. And I mean, last year, all 3 days we had rain, and I threw this rig all 3 days and caught them. So, and went through a lot of fish last year. This year, it was definitely tougher. A lot of fish following it on the scope. I was seeing them every now and then. I would get one to react, but it was tedious. It wasn't a great bite, but getting those quality bites gave me the confidence to stay with it. So we did on day one. I caught again. We caught several decent ones on day one. We weighed just over 20 pounds, so I'm like, okay, but what do I do the day two? So what I thought, and I told Damon this. I said, we kind of fished very conservative in that area. So I said, day two, I'm going to fish the other side of that bay and really pick it apart. And that's what I did. I did day two, went back to that same area, but fished the other side of the bay, and went to work. We caught them pretty early, and nothing big though. And it wasn't till about 2 o'clock that day the rain actually stopped, and then it
Okay.
started snowing.
It
Big flake.
is.
And it started snowing and it started getting super cold. But I turned to my co. I said, I've had my best day on Shasta in practice before in the snow. I said, these fish might move up shallow. So I went up shallow and I caught a 4.5. We went to the next spot and we catch a 5.5. And I'm like, wow.
Wow.
So that was clutch. And I mean, we ended the day early that day on day two. We came in because it was pretty nasty conditions. I was cold. My co-angler was cold and wet. He's like, man, I'm good. We weighed in 40 minutes early, and we had almost 19 pounds. And I'm still like, wow, everything's just happening just right. So it was good, but I knew day three was going to be a different conditions, and I was ready for the change. I anticipated the change. Started out what I was doing day one and day two, and caught a few right off the bat, but watched schools of fish following, not singles. Now these were groups of fish following. I'm like, wait a minute, these groups of fish weren't here day one and day two, and I said, and
Mhm.
not only that, they were coming out from shallower water, like I'm talking 5 foot and less.
Mm.
So we had the sun out, we had partly cloudy, we didn't have much wind. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to keep showing these fish the same bait. Let me change it up. So I did. I pulled out my spinning rod, my Daiwa Tatula Elite spinning rod, and pulled out a Nico rig. And obviously, this is, I mean, a staple out of Lake Shasta. It ain't no secret at all. A Nico rig. A lot of guys throw different baits. This one happens to be a Daiwa Nico Fat. I'll throw that. I'll throw Reactionation Pocket Rocket as well. That's what I threw last year, and they all work great. And I changed it up from this to a pocket rocket, and it just really whatever you're confident in. My co-angler was throwing, I think, a Berkeley Gulp Nico rig worm, and he was catching just as many as I was.
Mhm.
I was using a Voss tungsten nail weight. Obviously, I feel tungsten nail weights definitely give me a little bit more advantage because I can go a heavier weight. It doesn't bulk up the bait and it falls a little bit faster. And on that Nico rig, it spirals down. I feel the faster that goes down, the more reaction I get because all the catfish come up and actually go down on it hard. And when that bait hits the bottom, I'll leave it there and just shake the slack. And you'll feel that one tick. And the big ones that day would hit it and actually take off with it. But if I
Wow.
started moving it right away, they wouldn't. You let that bait hit the bottom and sit there and they'll nose up on it. It's almost like bed fishing. You get a fish nosed up. That's how they were. You could see them on that live scope. And I would just sit there and just shake the slack ever so lightly. I was using braided line. I was not using straight fluorocarbon. So I was using Siglon, Sunline Siglon PE8 in 16 to 20 pound test, high vis braid. And I was using a 7 to 8 pound test FC Sniper fluorocarbon leader. That braid allows me to watch the flow of that bait, how fast it's going out. And when it hits the bottom, I watch that braid because a lot of the fish, I'd see the line jump and then I would lean in it. Now, the one thing I noticed with these spotted bass is they'll grab half that bait. Okay.
Oh man.
You have no idea how many times where I leaned into them. I'm like, I'm on, and it comes off. And I come back with just my hook and the O ring. That was it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So what they're doing is they're grabbing that bait like a cigar and they're swimming off with it. So I noticed that on day three, after having that done in practice and in prior years, I was have to be patient. I get the bite, I'd let them swim with it. Actually, let them go with it, and then just kind of pull into them. And it's hard for
Okay.
me because I want to crack them. I want to crack them when I get bit. And it wasn't the case because if I did that, I lose a lot of baits and miss a lot of fish. So that was another little key that I kind of settled in on day three was letting them really take the bait and make sure they had it in their mouth. But yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Man, some absolute juice there, guys. I mean, the biggest takeaways that I've had this far has been number one, I feel like, and this is something personally that I've struggled with and have gotten a lot better around, is the again, kind of goes to this driver mentality, but like you didn't even go out on the last day of practice. There's been times, don't get me wrong, there's been times where I found something in the last 30 minutes of the last day of practice. It's getting dark and everyone, whatever. But there's also something so true to be said about, like, taking the gas off a little bit and
Right.
being prepared, being calm, mental state. Like, I'm going fishing tomorrow and I don't need to go wear them out because I'm gonna go try this new area, or this area that I've been to before, but I haven't been there this year and I don't know what's there. But there's some mystique there to that. And in the same way, man, with, like, getting off early, like, "Man, I've got a good bag. Let's not push everything here." And I don't need to hurt my gear, hurt whatever it may be. Like, it's nasty out. Like, let's get in, let's weigh these fish and get ready for tomorrow.
Absolutely,
Like,
I agree.
that's incredible, man.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, like I said, enjoying the moment. I could feel it out on the water. Everything was going right. We had great momentum going, and stayed very calm and collective. And yeah, just day three, I can tell on the water, it was going to happen, and it did. We're very fortunate. I mean, definitely was not expecting that kind of weight. I don't think anybody was expecting that kind of weight. But again, I mean, look, there were several bags over 20 pounds on day three weighed in. So it just the fishery super healthy. You guys watching this podcast and have never been to Shasta, you guys need to go. The scenery is epic. I mean, absolutely. You got waterfalls coming off the bank. You got bald eagles flying around. I got deer walking the shoreline, swimming across the cove. You're catching bass all day long. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. So,
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, question on the A-rig setup. I
mhm.
noticed, like, you wouldn't mind holding that up one more time. Pretty big baits. Like, I'm a big A-rig guy, but I'm generally a pretty small bait guy. What are those bigger baits? A, what's their length, and what's kinda your reasoning, for those bigger baits?
Right. So again, this is the 88's A rig made by Jesse Torre, a good friend of mine there in SoCal. And he offers these baits online. He's got a lot of local tackle stores that carry him as well too. He has finesse rigs, which this is more of a finesse rig, a little bit longer wires on the bottom. If you can notice that these two longer ones are 7 inch. The teaser and the center one here are the same length. They're a little bit shorter, about 5 inches. So, but these are Kitex. These are 4.3s on the bottom, which is I like that size versus the 4.8 or the 3.8. And then on the center one, obviously in California, we can throw three hooks. So the center one, I've got a little bit lighter head on that one. That's an 1/8 ounce head. And that's an easy shiner, 4 inch Kitech. And then the top two teasers are 3.5 inch easy shiners. Again, the two bottom ones, I always use 1/4 ounce heads. I feel with the 1/4 ounce head, I can control the depth of that bait better versus going a heavier head or too light of a head. Most of these fish were on the bottom. So it was very crucial that I really slowed up that rig methodically using my live scope to keep it just above the bottom so I wasn't hanging up too much. But definitely this rig, these are an electric shad color. So again, all pretty classic baits, a little bit bigger like you mentioned on the profile. And I was using a Daiwa Zillion 711 medium heavy reaction bait rod using 40-pound test Sunline SX1 braid, but I'll be using a fluorocarbon leader. Most guys are like, I throw straight braid. I'm with you at Clear Lake and other places, but we have clear water, and I use 16-pound test FC Sniper fluorocarbon leader. That leader, I feel, allows that bait to stay a little bit lower in the water column too. And again, mentally, I'm thinking I'll get more bites throwing a little bit fluorocarbon leader versus straight braid. And so that was my thing as well too. Obviously, this is a bladed rig. You can get them non-bladed, but I felt the blades a little bit more flash. Day one and day two, we had a little bit more current. We had water rising. We had a south wind, which I really don't like there. I rather a north wind, but it is what it is. So I felt that was good. The key, and a lot of people ask me, like, is there any special retrieve that you do on the A rig? And I do. I mean, I'll every now and then I'll kick the reel handle, I'll pop the rod, especially if I'm really using my live scope to follow my A rig, and I'll pop it and actually get them to bite it. So I do change that up quite often. But throwing that thing for 2 days, I mean, it's cumbersome. Last year I threw it all 3 days. And let me tell you, I was wore out after 3 days. But it
Sure.
was kind of nice on day three, changing up, pulling a spinning rod, and giving my arm a rest a little bit. But boy, I tell you, this rig did the damage though. All my big ones came on the rig. I caught one big one on day 3 on this one, which is almost 5. But a lot of fun to have a big rod in hand and go. The swim bait, I did catch a few on obviously my dad's bait, the Uribe Magic Swimmer, we call it. Unfortunately, I don't have one here for some reason, but maybe next time. So,
There we
but
go.
but other than that, I mean, that was it. I kept it super simple. I had one rod on the deck for 2 days, pretty much, and I had a spinning rod on the deck on day 3, and that's kind of my forte. Everybody knows me, man. Joe's only usually has one rod. When you got one rod, look out, and
Good.
it just,
Yeah.
I kind of narrow it down. When I get confident, settled in the sun, I'm just going to cover some real estate, and that's really what I did. I didn't really do anything special. I didn't have any special areas. I was confident in my abilities, comfortable with the area I was fishing, and just fished my pace and just mentally stayed in the game. Enjoyed the moment. Had a great time with my co-anglers, man. I mean, they were great. I had a guy from Texas on day 2,
No
and
way.
oh my gosh, he pulls out a split shot with the Zoom Super Fluke and catches a couple. I'm like, split shot. I mean, that's old school, And he
It
caught a
is.
couple on that. He caught a couple Texas rig and a Senko, and and they asked me, hey man, what do you want to bring? Something special. I said, you know what? Bring what you're confident in. And that's really important. I said, I want you to throw something that you feel confident in throwing at this particular time and stick with it, man. You'll catch them behind me. I'm not going to fish super fast. So your abilities, you'll be able to do what you need to do. And all 3 of them did that. They weren't like throwing the same thing I was throwing. I wanted them to change it up. They were catching fish behind me that I wasn't able to catch in the front of the boat. So it all worked out good. So it's another thing with this shared weight format, using that as a strategy because it is a team event. Every day you get a new partner. Let's work
Yep.
together. I'm open minded. If you got some, let's talk about it. Let's bounce ideas off of each other. So it's a great format. Like I said, I started there in 2003, and it helped me grow in my career one bass. I ventured obviously in FLW, MLF, Apex, Wild West, and now back here with one bass, and excited to go to Clear Lake in April. And last year we had an opportunity to win Angler of the Year, but my hat's off to Kyle Grover, man. That kid, absolute hammer. Obviously, his
Imagine.
dad is chip off the old block. I mean, he's got a great family, a great network of people that support him, and honestly, that helps out a lot. I mean, that really helps out. The support that I have with all my great sponsors, obviously Bridgeford being my title sponsor, they're huge sponsor of One Bass, and we offer the Bridgeford in the boat, and that's for all the anglers. It's basically Bridgeford saying thank you for being a customer. Thank you for the opportunity to earn your business. We're going to award every event a pro and co angler entry fee, courtesy of Bridgeford Food. I mean, how special is that?
It's
So great opportunity to be a part of such a great company, Bridgeford, based out of Chicago. We have a great team of anglers, including my sister as well, out west, and couldn't be happier, couldn't be more fortunate to be a part of Bridgeford. Obviously, I'm with Vexus Boats, Mercury, Complete Marine is a dealership. I don't know a lot of but I'm a boat salesman. I'm a sales manager at
gonna say
Complete
that's
Marine
your full-time
in
gig, right?
Phoenix, and I've been doing it now 26 years. Absolutely love it. Couldn't see myself doing anything else. And fishing the tournaments and doing well, that helps build your network. I mean, it helps me get in front of great customers and great people and great anglers, and just it's just a great opportunity to give back to as well. So.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and for folks, we've definitely talked a lot and have had Billy Egan on plenty of times regarding One Bass's format. But just to recap that, it's super unique. We don't really see this anywhere else across the country. The only other place where I've seen a shared weight format is actually Canada has some shared weight events. But outside of that, right, it's not an Eastern thing. It's not a central part of the country thing. It's very much a West Coast thing. But it really creates a neat team environment like you're talking about. And it opens the door up. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've all been in situations in a traditional non-shared weight format where you have both a great co-angler or a not great co-angler where you don't get along or there's some tension there because of hey, your fish don't count with my fish and those types of things. And so it really makes for that super neat environment. It sounds like keeping a positive light on that with your co-anglers every day was a big part of your success.
Absolutely, because I mean, at the end of the day, most of them they don't have the skill or the knowledge. that the boaters do, but that's okay. That's why they're there. They're there to learn. And, so for us anglers to give them the courtesy and take out and just kind of, coach them along the way, it's really going to help the team, is really what it does. And, I've provided rods and reels for my co anglers to use. And they're like, really? You're going to let me use your rod? I'm like, absolutely, man. And I mean, it's a great opportunity for the feel the gear that I'm using. And they're like, man, I like this. And they end up buying it. You know what I mean? It's just a beautiful thing. Everybody wins, So, in that. So, again, they're there to learn and have a great time. And, I mean, I just tell my guys, look, I don't care what happens today. Let's just have a good time. Let's stay positive. You need anything I have in the boat is yours, and that's the way I look at it. Because a lot of them are super nervous to draw me. They're like, man, I've been looking forward to drawing you, and I finally do. And I don't want
Yeah,
to mess up for you. I'm like, hey, look, time out. Let's calm down. Let's just break the ice right now. You can let all that go, okay? I'm Joe. I'm just Joe. Let's go have a good time. Let's have fun, and let's just enjoy the moment. Because they do. Some of them get super fired up and nervous, and I'm like, let's just stop with all that. It's all good. So yeah, so it's fun. It's exciting to see their excitement is really what it is. It's their adrenaline pumping, and that's what it's all about. That's why we do this. So
100%. I love it, man. I love it. Well, awesome. Well, Joe, I guess to wrap things up here, man, really appreciate you coming on, and totally agree. Sentiment to Bridgeford Foods. I've always thought I've been so impressed with their support of this industry. There's, as we know, non-endemics come and go in bass fishing so often. Bridgeford has been around for so long supporting anglers and West Coast anglers. That's not always the case. We see a lot of these brands that necessarily don't put that same emphasis on the West Coast, and that's what this segment of Serious Anglers about is seriously Western, and we're trying to build more of that sentiment and coverage on the West Coast. Um, I guess to wrap things up here, what else are you fishing this year? I think something that's always interesting with West Coast guys, changing landscape, tournament scenes, all these different things. What does the rest of Joe's 2025 look like fishing wise?
So my schedule this year, I committed to one circuit. Obviously, Juan Bass is where I'll be fishing this year. So we've got three more events. Well, actually four. We've got the Clear Lake event in April. We've
Yep.
got Havasu in May. We've got Lake Mead in September, and then of course the U.S. Open at Mojave. There's one other event that I'll be fishing, and that's because I qualified thanks to Juan Bass and Bassmasters. I'm fishing the 2025 Bass Nations Championship at La Crosse, Wisconsin, at the Mississippi
Yeah.
River, 2 weeks after the U.S. Open in October. So super excited about that. I mean, to have an opportunity to go to the Bassmasters Classic, are you kidding me? Like, I'm all in. So I'm super excited. Obviously, there's a lot at stake. You got to finish in the top three. Obviously, a Western angler, the odds are against us. But hey, just to have the opportunity. And not only that, my dad is going. He qualified as well at Lake Mead as a co-angler. So it's great, man. I'm just so excited that we're going to be a part of that. And I've been doing a lot of research on the Mississippi River. Man, it looks awesome. So I can't
Doesn't
wait.
it look so much fun? I've
It
never
is.
been there, but it
Yeah,
looks like a blast, man.
it does. So yeah, I can't wait. So that's going to be my schedule for 2025. I may sneak in a team tournament here or there with my dad, but other than that, I work a lot. Obviously, being the sales manager at the Complete Marine, takes up a lot of time, which I'd love, and I make sure that that obviously comes first. Obviously, our family, Amy and I have all the kiddos here. We have Blake, Aaliyah, Cooper, all the kids, man. I mean, it's just so. I mean, when they get out of school here in Arizona in May, so after the Havasu event in May, my boat gets stored for 3 months, and we're having family trips and enjoying time out on the lake on a family boat, and not fishing, and stuff, and just kind of relaxing and stuff. So I don't get a lot of time out of the water, but when I do get to go out for a tournament, I definitely enjoy every single day I get out there because it means a lot to me, and I love the sport, and I still want to compete, but I just had to kind of tone it back. So I picked one circuit, and super excited with the momentum that Juan Bass has, especially out here out west. I mean, it's just a great format. I mean, I want a fully rigged Ranger boat. I mean, come on. I mean, it's awesome. So, but yeah, so great. So that's what I'll be fishing for 2025.
Love it. Love it. Awesome, man. Well, thank you for your time this morning, and enjoy being back with the family and all of that, and can't wait to follow along with everything else you've got going in 2025. Alrighty, folks, and now we are joined by Mr. Alex Niapas. Did I say that wrong? I probably butchered that day one. Did I just mess that up?
No, you didn't. You got it.
Okay. Okay. Good. Well, guys, we are joined by Alex, who has had an absolute boomer last couple of weeks. First of all, congrats on the BAM Pro Am event win on Shasta. And then next thing you know, looking at the going back to back potential on one bass, a third place finish there. Man, incredible last couple of weeks for you on Shasta.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Uh, the only day I didn't like was the first day of the one bass. That was pretty much it. But all the days were great after that.
I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, listen to you on the oh gosh, the Alpha Bass Cast. First of all, great guys. Know those guys very well and have been on Serious Angler a bunch. Friends of the show for sure. Love what they're doing. More support for the West Coast. That's the vision of this segment of the Serious Angler podcast is the Western, seriously Western, to bring more light and education just on the West Coast and tournament coverage, quite frankly. So you're someone who's fishing both. You fished both the one bass as well as the BAM Pro Am event. And I guess the biggest thing that I noticed covering this just from a distance, did not fish either of those events, will be at the next one as far as for everything BAM is related to. But question for you. Look like conditions changed significantly at Shasta. I mean, the typical Shasta this time of the year, everything that I see is always raining and snowing and like weather sucks. But it's like guys catch the crap out of fish. And it looked like, I mean, I guess the biggest thing here, give us the differences between both events, and then we can kind of dig into what you were doing from a weather perspective first.
So yeah, the dam was pretty much a lot stable water conditions and clarity, and uh, I could run a half a dozen spots and know the fish are there. And then the one bass is kind of tricky. They were just out of the blue. You'll have a school of fish swim up and feed for a little bit, and you just have to hit them the right time, the right place. You just have to run a bunch of spots that you think that might work, and throughout the day you'll probably land on one good school and catch them. That's pretty much what happened.
Okay. Okay. And in all of this, I think we're definitely gonna get to this, but man, I mean, absolute giant spotted bass weighed what, day 2 of
Yeah,
the one bass event?
yeah,
My gosh, man, that is that I've never caught a spot bigger than maybe 3.5, 4 pounds, and those giant ones in Northern California have always had me super excited. I'm now a lot closer to Northern California. I moved to Idaho here,
okay.
and man, that is just like a dream of mine, but, like, give us just a little tidbit here on how that fish came about. Give us the story on the absolute mega that ended up being big bass of the event.
Yeah, I was it's kind of funny. It was on the first day. Uh, I was a little spun out. It was like one of those spots I told myself I had to hit, and I didn't.
Okay.
And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go there on the second day. And so I started on some other spots, and finally I was in that area, and so I ran to it. And first cast, I caught a 4.5. I was like, oh, that's good. So I retied and fired up, fired it up back up there. And on the second cast, I was just working my Cinco, and uh, I was hitting some rocks, and then I popped it off, and that Cinco flared down, and then went to lift up, and I was reeling a lot of line, and then I set on it, and literally it felt like I set into a log, and it just stayed on the bottom, just did not want to get off the bottom for probably 2 or 3 minutes. And then finally we got him up and came up and jumped in the back of the boat, and my partner was shocked. He was like, "Holy," you know. So once he got him up and he's fighting around, we got him in the boat, and we are kind of shocked how big it was. Yeah,
Dang.
yeah,
That that's, and I would have just assumed your background, you talked a little bit, and now maybe you can share a little bit more details now that both of these events are over. But big swim bait guy, chasing
yeah,
these big trout eaters in these lakes. But the 9 what it was 914, is that what it ended up weighing?
yeah, yeah. 914.
Wow. I mean, but that did not come on a swim bait. That came
No,
on a Neko rig kind of a deal?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
every fish on the second day was on a Cinco.
Wow.
You know,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it was.
Anything
You just have to adjust. On the first day, I threw the swim baits a lot, and I had opportunities, and it was just one of those days where it just didn't line up and
hmm.
came in with a small limit.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And now anything on your like walk us through your Nico rig a little bit. I call it Nico Nick. I switch it all the time. But walk us through what that setup looks like, both rod, reel, and then also the bait itself and what
Yeah,
you're looking at doing.
yeah. I just I use a uh, 7.6 Extreme St. Croix rod, Extreme. Um, I think it's like a medium. That's yeah, it's about a medium, not too heavy. And then I use a 10-pound P-line braid with some 8-pound P-line fluorocarbon, original fluorocarbon,
Mhm.
and yeah, and a Gamakatsu, finesse. I forget which hook it is, but honestly, I don't get too in fine details. But
I'm with
yeah,
you.
I think it's a G finesse hook, and yeah, just Nico rig it on a Cinco. And colors don't really matter, green pumpkin or watermelon, depending on and it depends on the water clarity too. If it's super clear, I'll go to a shad color one, but in dirtier water, I like the darker greens.
Okay. And
Yeah,
and 5 inch, what kind of length are you in a
five,
Senko gonna?
5 inch.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. Awesome. And to start, so you're coming off of a win. First of all, let's talk about the BAM win. Number one, that it sounded like did that have more of a swim bait factor for you with the stable
yeah,
conditions?
yeah. With the stable conditions, and um, we had some wind that helped. Um, it was sunny and windy. That's kind of more conducive for me for swim baiting.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sunny wind. And walk us through the bait, the setup, all there. And
yeah.
I mean, yeah,
On
walk us through what you're doing.
that I use the St. Croix Tournament Legend grass mid swim bait rod.
Okay.
And run that 20-pound original fluorocarbon.
Mhm.
So yeah, and that's on that new weedless. That's the weedless trout bait. That's what I use on that.
Okay. And walk us through and who makes that? Is that the Hog
Hog
Hunters
hunter.
deal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hog hunter.
Okay. And is that a how big of a bait is that?
It's 8.5 inches.
Okay.
Yeah,
Weedless though.
it's weedless.
Yeah, I'm looking
You
at
could
it
throw,
right now.
you could throw it in the trees, and yeah, it goes swims right through those trees. But
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. But it's 8.5 inches.
yeah.
A- And and basically with it being weedless here, it I mean, are you rigging your own treble hook through the bottom of it or how does that work?
No, there's no treble hook. It's just it's a line through, um,
Okay.
and it goes through comes with a 5/0 Gamakatsu straight shank, punching hook,
Mhm.
and so basically it has a harness with a magnet inside, and it clicks down, and it has a real soft top. So when a fish comes up and eats it, it that gives away, and that hook is exposed.
Wow.
And yeah,
And you just have them on the hook then. They don't does that hook
yeah,
disconnect? Okay.
yeah. It disconnects, slides out, and so basically, once you hook them, you don't have to. You could play around with them. It's like hooking them on a worm, pretty much. And
Wow.
they stay hooked. I haven't lost one.
Wow.
You'll miss them sometimes, but once you hook them, man, I have not lost a fish on that.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest issue that I've had anyway with big swim baits. And I'm no expert by any means of a big swim bait guy, but whenever have had a good time with them, with big glide baits or whatever it may be, I mean, those fish just have so much leverage with that
Yeah,
big of a bait hanging out of their
yeah,
mouth.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a really neat. So are these baits out yet, or are they coming out?
No,
What is
they're coming out probably later this summer.
okay?
There's a few little tweaks, they have to before you put them on the market, but it's a yeah, and it's real durable since it's a line through. I mean, it's never in the fish's mouth, raking or anything, and so you could catch 50, 60 fish on it, but who knows, 100 fish.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Well, one of mine, I probably caught 60 fish on it.
Oh my gosh,
The
wow.
first
Yeah,
one
you
I
don't
got,
hear about that with soft
yeah,
swim baits.
soft swim baits. Yeah, yeah, it's
And what
go ahead.
what depth are you fishing this at? Like, is this and how is it weighted? That kind of a thing. I mean, how are these
Uh,
fish setting up? These big swim bait eaters.
you know, they it all depends on the spot, but most of the time it's shallow fishing.
Okay,
It's wherever the probably anywhere between 5 to, you know, 18, 19, 20 feet
okay,
is probably but yeah, uh, and then the weight system, it has uh, interchangeable weight. You could add
okay.
weight, you could dial it in you could play with that and get it. And the one thing I noticed too is, with that, it has a longer channel being a bigger bait.
You're saying like on the on
Yeah,
the
on the
on the
fall,
fall.
literally it'll stay parallel and just go left and right down like a Cinco almost.
Wow, wow. Okay, so of the fish weighed in the BAM event, how many of them came on the
Um,
big swim bait?
8. Yeah, yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah. On the first day, I
That's
caught
awesome.
um, 2 big ones right off, and then left that spot alone. I was going to save it for 3 days. I was thinking, and
Mhm.
I bounced around and caught some fish on Cincos, and um, I caught some 213s, 214s, nice, quality fish on the Cinco. And then in the afternoon, I got a little breeze going, and I caught a 3.5. And then on the second day of the BAM, they canceled it, and I thought that
Yep.
would be to my advantage. So on the final day, I beat up my spot pretty good. Caught 5 big ones throughout the day, and then yeah, yeah.
Made it happen. I love it. But then in the one bass event, first of all, third, great finish, catch a big one. First of all, what is that? Where does that rank in your big spotted
Um,
bass situation?
I officially it's my biggest. Uh, let's
Okay.
see if this works. My ear pod. No. Um, okay.
Yeah, you sound fine, like,
Official.
without it.
Yeah. In that
Yeah.
Wild West, 5, 6 years ago, um, one of the first fish I caught on the camera with the camera boat. Um, that thing was really big. I couldn't. And when I weighed it on my scale, it weighed 933. And then when they weighed it, it weighed 833. I was kind of not sure. Yeah, it was a.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't as. It was longer, but not as thick as that. Latest one I just caught. Yeah,
That thing was rotund, man. That thing was so fat. I couldn't believe it.
yeah. It was literally like fighting a
Holy cow.
rock on the bottom. That's what it felt like. It jumped. It
And then
came
it
up and
jumped, though.
jumped,
It did jump near the
but literally it was like two
holy cow.
minutes of just letting them swim on the bottom. But
Man. Baby and a big one with a fairy wand. Wish you woulda had
yeah,
your 20 pound for that one.
yeah. I wish I. Yeah. Uh, as if they
Worked out.
seemed to. They didn't seem to be keen on the swim bait very much. Yeah, on the final day of the one bass, I caught a couple, but that was it's kind of a weird bite. You just kind of throw things out of the window and just tell you, let the fish tell you what they want to eat.
Sure, sure. And so conditions wise, it sounds like that's a big deal for you. The sun and the wind obviously generally
Yeah.
make a big bait generally play better. With it being overcast, rainy, snowy in the one bass for the most part. Is that where you shied away from that and started
No,
going
no,
back
I
to the
just,
Senko kind of a deal?
I kind of just, I tried to force it the first day and that didn't work. Um, and sometimes, it's, I don't know what dictates it, but you just have to go with your gut. And it just didn't seem like they were feeding on the eating the trout is like, it just was even like the day before the tournament I was catching a bunt, or I was getting bit a lot on the swim bait, and I thought it was going to be a good day for it, and it just didn't line up. So yeah,
Dang it.
yeah,
That's how it goes.
yeah,
How it goes sometimes.
it was just like one of those weeks where you get on a spot and there's bait around, and, and you think it should be good, but it just wasn't. You have to make a few casts, and if they're not biting, move on. Yeah,
Mhm. Mhm. Got it. Got it. Okay. And now so we are sitting here
yeah,
early February. We've had 2 great events to start the season and to kick things off. I mean, first of all, I am last question about the differences in events. Did you run the same
yeah,
area primarily? Were you
yeah. I
running a
ran the
bunch of
same
stuff?
arm, and
Okay.
the spots I was fishing during the BAM, it's those things are done. They're 40, probably, I don't know, probably close to 30 to 40 feet down. So a lot of those fish moved. So
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
The
I
water's
think
come up that much.
it was crazy. It was going like up over 6 feet a day. Yeah,
That is
yeah.
absurd. I mean, and does that I would assume those creeks that get a lot of water flowing through them, does that get things
You
kinda
know,
muddy in those situations?
initially on the first, couple storms, it does, but after the second or third storm, that water actually cleans up, and so the cleaner water will be in the backs of the creeks. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah,
And is that like an area where
yeah,
you're gonna go target
yeah.
big ones
The
in the back of
the
a creek
the
with clean
clearer
water?
water, yeah, it seems to be better than. Um, I don't want the like super,
Wow.
gin clear, but I like a if it's super muddy on the main lake and it's you know has a little cloudiness to it. That's kind of perfect for me with swim baits. They could see it. They could see it,
Give
but
them a
they
little
can't get
stain.
a great look at it. It's one of those deals that. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's ideal for me.
Okay.
Is you know, like a water
And were you a
clarity where they
I mean,
just they could see the outline, and they know they assume it's a trout and run up there and eat it. But yeah,
that makes sense. Okay. Were you a primarily a 2-rod quiver guy, it sounds like? I mean, eco rig, swim bait, was there anything else you kinda
I
mixed in over these 2
I did.
events?
I threw the chatterbait and spinnerbait a little bit the first day and second day, but um, didn't catch much on it. Nothing to. So yeah, I thought that the backs of the creeks would work out, and in the arm I was in, it wasn't conducive. Um, for one, you couldn't get back to them. The water came up so much. It was pre-fishing, I had some success, and the first day of the tournament, I went back to hit a few of those, and they were like 150 yards back just from overnight. The water coming up so much, you couldn't get to them. There's a bunch of willow trees in the way. So, yeah.
Got it. Dang, man. Dang.
Yeah.
So starting the year off right, two great finishes, two great checks cashed. Now we're rolling into the rest of 2025. What does that look like for you, man? What does your tournament schedule
Yeah.
look
I'm
like, and what do you
gonna
do for work?
probably I signed up for the BAM for Don Pedro, and then I'm gonna do the one at Clear Lake. But those are my two tournaments I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And if you finish well
Yeah.
on Don Pedro, assume home lake, those types of things, will you fish the third one then
Yeah.
to be able to make the
I'll do.
championship?
I'm not even sure where it's at. Is it at Delta, right? I think.
Now you've got me confused here. Let's look. And Pro Am. I want to say it was, yeah, it's
Yeah.
sometime in the fall. I know that.
I'm pretty sure it's at the Delta. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Delta.
May.
In May and June, actually. I'm
Could be.
sorry. End of May. June. I really like that time frame at the Delta. That's probably one of my
I like it
favorite
in
kind of
mid
times.
March, but it's there'll still be bad fish and probably frogfish going on. So yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. Well, I guess for a little bit of preview for folks maybe getting ready
Yeah.
for Don Pedro, what's your take on that place this time of year? I mean, we've got what,
Yeah.
2.5 weeks here or so, 3 weeks
Yeah.
till that event. Give us a
It
little
all
insight.
depends on the weather. If it was a couple weeks um, earlier, I could narrow it down and tell you. But there's definitely going to be fish caught on swim baits and jigs, and um, finesse stuff too, Nico rigs and split shots. But yeah, it just depends on what. If the weather's really nice, there might be some bedfish. It,
Wow.
it all depends. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. They always put it at one of those transition times where they go back in the creeks to think about spawning, and so yeah, it's like I never get
Got it.
a pro
Got it.
am like in February or January at my lakes. They always put it in March, and it could be tricky. Yeah,
Keep stuff changing
yeah,
versus that
yeah,
consistency.
yeah. It takes away my local advantage.
And
Put it that way. That's
there you go.
yeah.
Well, that's good for someone
Exactly.
like me coming out of town. That's
Yeah,
music to my
yeah.
ears.
Usually it's some guy, and they find the right stretch, where they're catching them on a Cinco or whatever. It's just, it's like this area that I would never think about, but they're there, and some guy will stumble on them and catch them. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Now, as far as your big swim bait stuff, what would be the time of the year on your I mean, you're in the part of the world where big trout
Yeah.
eaters are well known. It's been a thing for quite some time. What does it look like in your mind? What's the textbook day, time of year where it's like, man, you've got a real chance to catch a great big one or a really big bag on a
Um,
swim bait?
it's kind of, there's fish that always are going to be, let me how to explain this, but sometimes in November, um, when the fish kind of move up, not being suspended, and um, they're what I say, the virgin fish that haven't seen a lot of baits, and there's those days where they move up and eating, they're targeting trout, and you can catch a bunch of big fish doing that, and it's just. And then they get wise to, after getting caught so much, they get wise and seeing baits, and that goes throughout this, the winter, and then, then this time, where I'm saying, and like in March, late February, they start to, some other fish kind of move up, and then they haven't seen baits for very long, and that's a time where you could catch them. You could catch a lot of big ones doing that.
Okay, so for you, it's more
Yeah.
on the time frame.
Yeah, it's fresh.
When it's fresh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like virgin fish. I haven't seen baits in, who knows, a couple months.
Right. Versus if you're late after everyone's been doing it, the fish are up and chasing trout.
There's a lot of guys out there
wise.
just throwing swim baits and catching them. They get wise.
Those fish get wise.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
Just even, the guy, you don't even have to catch them, so some guy, throwing a swim bait and getting a fish to bite, and maybe losing them or not even hooking them. Just that experience of biting a fake lure, they kind of know not to do that.
Right. And especially something as unique and as big as a swim bait.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dang. Makes a lot of sense, man. That's awesome. Man, well, what a season. Yeah. What a way to start your season. What a fantastic start to the year, man. Nothing but good vibes for Mr. Alex going on right now. Where can folks follow along with everything that you've got going on?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram, and if you want to book a guide trip, catchingcalifornia.com.
Catching California. Yeah. Okay, we'll be sure to put that.
Yeah, we can't fish
show description.
Maloney's right now, but Don Pedro, McClure, Tulloch. Yeah. Yeah, Maloney has a restriction. You have to get your boat inspected and then wait 30 days. That's no go for me.
That's you got to be able to use your boat in 30 days.
Yeah, have to go to Shasta and Clear Lake. Yeah.
Dang.
So,
right. And are these guide trips? Everything? Are they? I mean, could a guy book with you and do something really swim bait oriented?
And if they want to just catch fish, and I could show them how to do that too. It all depends on what they want to do. If they want to go for a trophy or just catch fish.
I love it, man. Well, good stuff. Well, Alex, man, number one, super congratulations on 2 great finishes and a new PB spot. I mean, what a giant, dude. What a dream fish. Absolute whale.
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. And can't wait to follow you along. Certainly excited to meet you at Don Pedro event, and looking forward to following the rest of your 2025.
Thank you. Good luck.